This isn't your normal home movie about a child dancing. This is living, visual proof of a premonition of greatness in the making. Determined, ambitious, disciplined, focused. Undeniable, the Trey Cheney story.
I knew, at a very young age that I wanted to be, a dancer. I wanted to be, involved in the entertainment business in some type of way.
My name is Trey Cheney.
That's Trey Cheney, a dancer, an entertainer, an actor. He is most famously known for his acting on The Wire, playing Malik Poot-Carr, surviving 5 bloody seasons on the award-winning show that captured audiences for its raw storytelling and grisly action.
It was just one of those experiences that I'll never forget.
The man with the hustle and grind passed down from the gods.
Watching him come in for one episode in Saints and Sinners and turn that into a whole 2 seasons, that's the work of the gods, man.
With a beautiful wife.
I was going to walk away, and he pulled me back. And he was like, do you date younger men?
And of course, 2 children.
To see him grow from being that young man to the father and husband that he is now, it's amazing.
Shit, look at me.
Acting on 5 whole seasons of The Wire, making it big on TV. Then when The Wire ended, he went broke with no work.
When it ended in 2008, 1 year it went past 2009, I didn't work.
It was some days he was out on a corner in D.C. trying to sell his CDs, his music, and even his book. And people would walk past and they wouldn't support, they wouldn't buy it.
I'm broke. I don't got no money. It started to become, like the worst nightmare for me.
And it came down to where he just broke down one night.
I'm in them streets every day, I'm grinding.
Now, just because Trey hit some tough times, that didn't stop him from rebuilding himself from the ground up.
I just kept pushing, and I kept getting in front of people's face. And then next thing you know, my street hustle started to create its own name for itself, being out on the streets.
He's a go-getter, and he's determined and to get what he deserves.
I don't know where he picked up this hustle from, but it was a charge in him.
I had to keep recreating, reinventing myself. I stopped chasing directors and producers, and I did me.
To pull his family together and get back on his feet.
And what was more important to me was getting my wife back and my kids.
Got his family back together. They worked together with each other.
And becoming a force to be reckoned with.
One thing I admired about the man is that taking no wasn't a good answer for him.
I'm a fan, so I look forward to seeing what happens in the future.
It was just nice to see what was put into this man that I was seeing on a regular basis at work.
This business is all about what are you doing now. People don't care what you did yesterday.
Don't go anywhere, and let us take you through a journey told by the man himself, his family, and his closest friends and colleagues from work. Skip and Elaine Chaney, his parents. Aisha Chaney, his wife. James Chaney, his uncle. And famous actors including Clifton Powell, Kenny Lattimore, singer, songwriter, and relative of Trey. Russ Parr, director, writer, and producer. Keith Robinson, Big G, and a host of other amazing talent. And Trey Cheney. This is Trey Cheney, Undeniable. Samuel Chaney III was born on August 2nd, 1981 in Cheverly, Maryland, to Samuel and Elaine Holmes Chaney. Since he was the third Samuel Chaney, they affectionately dubbed him Trey, a spin-off on Tres, the number 3 in Spanish. He may have been the third Samuel Chaney namesake, but he wouldn't let his birth order dictate his rise to being number 1.
I realize Trey was a special baby even before he was born. Yeah. Trey was so active in my stomach. He was flipping and moving so much. And he was even born a breech baby. So I knew Trey was going to be doing something active once he came out.
From the start, Trey's parents knew their kid was a cut above anyone else. He was far from being the typical child. Traditional toys didn't interest Trey.
Most kids wanted toys.
Yeah.
Trey wanted a boombox. He wanted music. And my brother had him one time, and he was outside on the sidewalk break dancing. And I think he was, 2 years old?
Yeah.
And that's what he was into. He was into dancing and entertaining the family. That was his main hobby.
I want to say at the age 4 years old. I want to say around 4 or 5 years old. And that really came from my upbringing. Like my mom and dad, they love music. They love all genres of music. And I just remember, them always inviting our family members over to have parties, cookouts, or whatever it was. It was just always an atmosphere where it was a lot of music, it was a lot of dancing, it was a lot of rapping, it was a lot of singing. So, my love for music and just, the art of entertainment, period, it started at a very young age, 4 or 5.
He was heavily into music that he requested microphones and radios. So it took the Cheneys aback when Trey would ask to be taken to his favorite store, Radio Shack, a now defunct electronics store, instead of toy stores.
We knew Trey had an older spirit by the way he acted. It was very noticeable. Like as he was coming up, we could see the things that he didn't want to do and the things that he wanted to do as a young boy. And that's when we knew that things were going good for him at that time.
The Trey Cheney household was well-versed in music, as well as award shows of any nature, whether for music or acting. All life came to a screeching halt whenever award shows came on television. It was the Cheneys' version of the Super Bowl. And although they are devout Jehovah's Witnesses, Trey's exposure to different types of music was broad. He enjoyed artists like Bobby Brown, Michael Jackson, MC Hammer, but the one artist that Trey would relate to and admire the most was New York rapper Big Daddy Kane.
I was so confident at a young age. I want to say I was around 6 years old, and I just remember watching a lot of Michael Jackson and Bobby Brown. Like I think I wanted to be Michael Jackson and Bobby Brown mixed in one. I watched a lot of MC Hammer, you know what I'm saying?
Trey didn't know the word shy. This was something that his parents noted. He showed off his smooth, effortless dance moves for the first time at age 6 in a talent contest at Glen Ridge Elementary in New Carrollton, Maryland. I
remember going home telling my mom that they were having, this big talent show and I wanted to enter it. And my parents at first was like, that's a big deal.
The teacher came to me and told me they were going to have a talent show, and Trey wanted to dance for the whole school. I said, he want to dance for the whole school by himself? She said, yeah, he don't want no group. He want to do it by himself. I said, well, okay, let him go.
He would go on to winning first place and never looked back.
When he won, that's when, you kind of knew something is good here.
I developed a relationship with Trey's natural uncle by going to middle school with him. We went to school together. And the entire Chaney family was family for me growing up when I was 13 or 14 years old. So from there, Trey's father ended up being one of my first managers, actually, for me. And my mom used to manage me, and she was my greatest fan. But Skip used to handle some of my day-to-day things, and we were kind of going through a period where he was grooming to be my manager.
When my whole family came to that show and they seen me dance and they seen me win first place, I knew at that point that this was something that I wanted to do.
So you gotta keep rising, never stop. And Trey never changed. He kept his dance energy up, showing off his dance skills in shows across D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and even New York. Even at a young age, Trey had his sights on the Apollo Theater in New York.
I was sort of young, you know, to be on Showtime at the Apollo, but amateur night was it was the same, you know, because after amateur night, after they would do that big show, then we had, you know, the Showtime at the Apollo. That whole segment would follow right after. So I remember my uncle James and you know, my mom and dad submitting me to get an audition. So I remember going up there, driving up to New York with my family. I auditioned for it, and they said, well, we want him to, you know, to be on a real show. We want him to compete against adults, you know, and or kids, whoever was competing. I was able to, you know, just do my thing. So once they turned to like me getting on these big stages, you know, some of the biggest stages, man, with, you know, legendary people like James Brown and, I mean, anybody you could think of had graced that stage of Apollo. Once I got up there, and we talking about over, you know, 1,000 or 1,500 people, you know, just being in the audience. And one thing about me, I was never shy.
He would go on to enter many talent contests, coming in first place with them all. Then he set his sights on entering the biggest, well-known contest at the time, Showtime at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. He won 4 consecutive times, and it was there that he finally got to meet his icon, Big Daddy Kane, face to face. Big Daddy Kane was impressed with young Trey when he first met him. And although he didn't remember Trey completely until they met up again, it didn't take much for Big Daddy Kane to recognize his talent and his hustle.
I personally believe that, you know, Trey Cheney was a man when he was 8 years old, you know, because, I mean, it's like, you know, when you have dreams and ambition and you're doing what you got to do to see them through, you thinking like a man right there. Anything that's happening with him, you know, is inevitable.
They started requesting him back to come in, and that's when Big Daddy Kane, Mike Tyson, you know, people were there, and things were getting kind of good. And it was exciting because he wasn't doing nothing wrong. He was just dancing as a little boy, and they loved it, so.
And he danced, and he danced, and he danced. He won first place 5 times.
Watching over his career, when it became noted that his career would soar, was his uncle and manager, James Chaney. James was amazed at how much Trey's talent was natural and how Trey competed on an adult level. James would continue to serve as manager until Trey was 13. When James got married and didn't want to deal with the hassle of the entertainment industry and balance a wife and kid, he turned the reins over of management back to Trey's parents.
This continued for me dancing from 7 to, I want to say, about 17, 18 years old. So, you know, 10 years, 10, 11 years of just straight up talent shows. I was getting press in my city, so I was performing all throughout D.C., Maryland, Virginia, New York. My uncle was, you know, they were booking flights for me to come to, you know, California, but it was just dancing.
Gigs would come and go, but nothing was consistent. And as a teenager, Trey was no stranger to trouble. He dabbled in smoking and sex and got into fights. Negativity had found Trey, but it still never stopped him from his desires and passions to be in entertainment. He knew that performing was deep in his soul, and he would continue to work to make a name for himself. At the age of 19, Trey Cheney's life would literally change forever. Trey performed a dance routine to a Puff Daddy song at a talent contest hosted by urban radio host legend Russ Parr. And much like all the other contests he entered, he won the top $1,000 prize. But it wasn't the only prize he won that day.
I did a show here that Russ Parr actually hosted at the legendary Lincoln Theater. And I won first place, dancing again. About 17, 18 years old, and a woman by the name of Linda Townsend, who owns like a management company out here in Clinton, Maryland. She got in contact with, you know, my uncle and my parents, and she said, I don't specialize in working with dancers or hip-hop artists.
He caught the eye of a representative from a Maryland-based talent agency, Linda Townsend Management. They gave him a proposition that would pan out to be the very thing to launch Trey's acting career. Linda took him under her wing and groomed him to be able to audition for another Maryland entertainment powerhouse, Pat Moran.
So I think me not being shy and me not, feeling like I would be embarrassed in front of, one person or 1,000 people, once a couple of conversations went back and forth with me and Linda Townsend, it was sort of like me just saying, okay, I'll jump into acting. I will try it out. Because again, I just wanted to be a part of this entertainment business, this entertainment industry in some type of way. It took maybe 2 years from getting with her in 1999 to 2001 to really just fill me out, to get the right headshots. And my resume consisted of just dancing and performing all across the country, but it was no acting experience. But it was still a resume.
He started doing these headshots and wanting to transition into acting. As a matter of fact, we reached out to a talent agency in DC named Linda Townsend. We reached out to her years ago, but because he was so young, she didn't know what he could really do, which winded up, how about this, a few years later, she winded up taking on Trey and getting him the actual job with The Wire after she realized how talented he was. So at first he was a little boy, he was a dancer. She didn't see any area that she could use him at that time, but when she saw his acting ability, she took him on as an actor, and immediately he landed the role on The Wire.
It's go season.
Yeah. Hey, see y'all, turn me up a little bit. Plot plan, put myself in position. When I landed The Wire was my first audition for Weebay back in 2001. Ended up playing Pood, how my story begun.